All right, let's open them up. Wait. All right, so let's take a look at this guy for real. That's the box. Here's the Lego. Before we get started, I just have to say I really like this thing overall. I think it's really cool. I have wanted Lego to do Star Wars upscaled minifigs for so long, and I had to jump on this. And he's just so neat. He is about 11 inches tall, maybe 11 and a quarter, which is what the box says. So it's actually really accurate. I'm always so interested myself in scaling these kind of things, seeing how they really compare to other things you own, how they're going to fit in your collection. So here is the basic Vader minifig in comparison. We're going to compare the sculpt and the parts more specifically in a minute, but just take a second and appreciate what this guy looks like overall. It's always super interesting when building these things to figure out how Lego's handling the organic shapes in real time. Sometimes they do it a lot more successfully than others, and we're going to talk about that here. But the first thing I want to point out is how well they translated the printed armor. It looks pretty good from a distance. You definitely can tell it's the Lego fig. Would have loved on those bigger pieces, the flatter pieces there, to maybe have some sticker printing. And here are the helmet sculpts side to side. Definitely looks like an upscaled minifig, but the chest and the legs look bare. I would have appreciated a decal. Here you'll get an idea of how the neck swivels, and he does get full 360 range. It clicks pretty well and moves really smooth, but not too loose. His left arm works kind of the same way, where you could tell it jiggles a lot, but whatever position you put it to, it does hold, even though it doesn't really look sturdy. Now the wrist also moves, which I think is a nice touch because the minifigure's wrist can move. Now, the one thing I've heard people really praise about this is the cape. I could not agree more how cool it is that we got a huge cloth cape. I do wish that it wasn't folded so it didn't have all those lines, and it is a little transparent. Let me try to show you that here, but overall it's really minor complaints. I really do love admiring the way they problem solved building this thing, but I am going to want to talk about some things that annoy me. Like the inside of the saber, they use this big black piece when I feel like it could have looked cooler being white. This arm also doesn't move, which is kind of annoying. It just holds in place by these two little pegs that you could kind of see here, those holes, and then that plus shaped piece. I do think it's really cool though that they managed to make the arm look exactly like the other arm. So even though it can't function the same way, it does look identical. And I think that's cool. They built it basically two totally different ways and achieved the same thing. I actually think the only thing that's visually different is that one little piece with the peg on it. All right, so now we're going to get into the helmet, and even though it looks really cool, we're going to get into things I don't like how loose some of the fittings are. So if you even just hold this thing the wrong way, if you could see right over his eyes, there's these big separations that appear. So you have to be careful how you handle it. Definitely something that's more display than play. Well, that's really minor because the next thing that I don't like is kind of a big problem. The side pieces pop off really easy because they're only held in by this one little joint. So a huge part of his samurai helmet just snaps off. And if you push on the wrong side on the top, you actually run a risk of breaking the whole panel, which actually happened to me here shooting with minimal effort and minimal pressure. And then I dropped it and it totally fell apart. And since the build is so intricate, there's so many little pieces, and I just wanted to show you how not user-friendly it is to have to put back together on the fly if you accidentally grab this thing in the wrong spot. I personally think the sculpt is really good, but I think it did come at a functional cost. You could see where more of the pieces in the back, like in the front, come apart if you just grab it the wrong way. There's a lot of holes and crevices. What really annoys me isn't even on the head, it's in the legs. Do look really cool, but I don't like how much you could see through them and how often Lego insists on using weird colors inside a build, especially if you could see through it as much as you can here. They could have just used black. But anyway, let's compare moving the legs like the pose they show it doing on the box. So the legs do actually move really well, but you can see, I'm barely touching it and it's really wobbly, so I wouldn't feel comfortable keeping it in this pose. Since it is a Lego minifig, you could always sit him down and he's super sturdy like that and looks adorable. Now, I can't imagine a scenario where you'd want his legs to be like this, but they do bend really far back the other way too, and I wanted to show you that. And oh wait, look, more red poking through. Come on, Lego. But it is a super sturdy build when it's standing, so I'm jiggling it back and forth here and it's not moving at all, so that's nice. After looking at it a lot, I can't really say I love the back of the helmet, but I do really like how they were able to find a way to make that shape work. I mean, it couldn't have been easy. Here's the minifig, the actual minifig to compare it to. I mean, it's just, that would be so hard to do with Lego. All right, so here's my overall thoughts on this thing. $100, you get a really good package. I do wish they had a few extra little features like stickers or decals, and that some of those red pieces weren't red. I do wish some parts of it were a little bit less brittle, but the sculpt is really good and it does pose really nicely. I think for the size and for what it can do, $100 is a really fair deal on this. I do think they could have included actual Vader minifig. It just would have been a nice thing to be in the box. You're getting the big build, you get a little one to display it with, but small complaint. Overall, I'm really happy with this, and I think if you get it and you just want to display it, you'll be happy too. Thanks for watching.